All right, motion tracking. Motion tracking is everywhere in film editing. It's in commercials, it's on sports, it's everywhere. It's in movies. You can't go anywhere without motion tracking. So it's probably best that we learn how to do it. And it's pretty easy. It's pretty easy given you have a good enough shot, a good enough video to do it with. So let's make a blank project. And on Canvas, I have a link to the video I want to use for today. So you can visit Pexels and download that video and slap it in your VSDC. And we got some women playing some soccer here. Simple, simple. So what is motion tracking? Well, as the name suggests, motion tracking is tracking motion. So, for example, in this video, we've got a lot of motion going on. We've got all of these players running around. We've got a ball, and we've got lots of movement. So motion tracking allows us to track that movement. And once we've tracked that movement, we can do some cool stuff with it. So maybe I'll show you what I mean. So once your video is in VSDC, on the timeline here, you should have one layer. Just right click this video and we're going to create a movement map. Because if you want to track motion, we need to create a map of the motion we're tracking. Anyways, what a mouthful. So it's going to pop up this thing, because what you can do is you can create movement maps and you can save them. So in your ICT folder, in your VSDC, might be a good idea just to make a folder for movement maps, as we will probably return to motion tracking. And I've already created this movement map, but I'll create it again. So give a name for your movement map. So I'm just going to call it soccer map, because this video is about soccer and I'm creating a movement map. So what else am I supposed to call it? Just hit save. And you'll be taken to the motion tracker, fancy, cool little interface here. This red box, this is where you are going to tell VSDC what you're trying to track. So, for example, let's just track this girl because she's chilling by herself and it's probably going to be really easy to track her. Couple things when you're on your own making your own videos. Motion tracking works if A, the thing you're trying to track is easily visible in your video. So she is obviously very easily visible in the video. She stands out from the green grassy background, so that's good. And number two, or B, do they stay in the video the entire time? Because if she moves, if she runs outside the frame of the video, we can't see her anymore. Well, we can't track her motion, so we're hooped. So that's really all the two things you need. This red dot, you're going to put that exactly on the thing you're trying to track. So I'm putting it right on this girl because I want to track her. Sounds creepy. And this box, this red box, basically helps VSDC with the tracking. So you kind of want to make it pretty small. And you kind of want to confine your subject to the box. You don't really want all that extra stuff. And hopefully this does a good job of tracking. So once you've selected your subject, you can hit the Start Analysis button. And it's probably not going to be that fast as you. I'm rocking that 3060, you know what I'm saying? You know what's up? But yeah, so it'll go frame by frame, and it's going to track, it's going to do as best as it can to track that motion. And if anytime you have any hiccups, if you have any red lines, or if your tracking stops, that probably means your selection's not good enough. So just take your needle back to the start of the video and just readjust your box, and maybe it's just picking something up that it shouldn't. So just get it going again. Resize it, and hopefully it works. But this is a very pretty clear video. I hope there isn't any issues tracking her. So once you're done, you can just hit apply editing and just hit yes. And now you've created a movement map, and you can use that movement map to basically tack it onto other objects in your videos. So I'm sure I don't know if any sports fans here, if you've ever seen highlights of a soccer game, of a hockey game, a basketball game, I'm going to add some text to this project. So I clicked add text, and now I just got to draw a text box. So let's pretend I know this girl's name. Give me a name. What should we call her? Bobby? Okay, that works for me. Let's go Bobby Labonte. And we've done a lot with text already. We can do some cool things. Let's just keep it simple for today. Let's just center it in our text box, and I'm pretty happy with it. Let's give Bobby a number. Let's say she's wearing, I don't know, number 67. It's a good number. So all I've done is I've just created some text, and I can play my video and yada, yada, yada. Doesn't look too cool. Let's kick it up a notch. Let's use that movement map. So make sure your text is as long as your video. So make sure your ends of your objects line up. And then you're going to double click the text object to go inside, and we can do some add effects and stuff. This time we're going to add an object though. We're not going to add an effect. You could if you wanted to, but let's add an object. And what are we going to add? Well, who would have thought? We're going to add a movement object. So down at the bottom, and you're going to add a movement map. Make sure your needle is at the very start of your timeline. And you should see your movement map that you just created mere 4 minutes ago. So click on it and press OK. Now you can go back to your main timeline, and if you press play, the text, your text object, is now following the movement of the player, of the girl we just motion tracked. So you are free to move this text still. So I could put that text right above her head, just like so. And you see this on like sports highlights or replays or stuff like that. And if you press play, you can see it's almost like a video game too, like where they got the name above their head. And you can see it does a pretty good job of following her movement pretty accurately. And if for whatever reason your text just looks a bit off from the movement, just make sure your text is lined up here. And if you go double click into your text effects, make sure this hasn't been moved around. Because if I move this around, and by around I mean not at the front, so if I accidentally moved it, you can see that the movement map is not clinging on to, it's not moving where it's supposed to be. So just make sure that you have that thing where it needs to be. And the very last thing we can do, because let's just keep it simple, let's just add some sound. And we talked about sound last time. So over in our trusty, dusty Sound Dogs website, We could go and try to find a soccer arena sound effect. Let's try this one. Find a sound you like. Just press that little I button. Download the MP3. Find it in your folder. Rename soccer sound. And we can throw it into our video. Can pull it in tight there so it matches the video. And of course the crowd goes wild right when Bobby Labonte gets the ball, as they always do. That ended up being timed pretty perfectly. Cool, so that's motion tracking. Not hard at all. VSDC does all the work for you, but the only work you need to put in is making sure that you find a good enough video that can be motion tracked. That's the tricky part. All right, cool. I think there's an assignment for you to do now.